Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have quite a bit to talk about, such as the Los Angeles Dodgers are in first place in the NL West for the first time since April 25th of 2021. It's about time, but they have a huge three-game series against the New York Giants, which are currently tied for them for first place. And the Lakers also inked Rajon Rondo to another deal. So Rajon Rondo boomeranged his way back to the Lakers after stints with the Hawks and the Clippers. Can he make a difference with the Lakers? Also, we have a little preview of some MLS action between the Galaxy and LAFC as both teams tied in El Tráfico 3-3. And then we also have college football. It is fully back as we have USC, UCLA, San Diego State, even the University of San Diego taking the gridiron. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Again, it's another earlier start time than normal, but I'm a busy guy and I had to be flexible when it came to my scheduling with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show and for Set Point. So I appreciate you all tuning in, and if you're listening on your lunch hour or you're listening at any point, I really do appreciate you. So without any further delay, let's get on into the Southern California sports action. But first, we have a word from our sponsors. So the first sponsor from IE Sports Radio is the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. Congratulations to the Southern California Warriors on their second win of the season as they defeated the Desert Scorpions for a second time, 12-0 on the road. And the Warriors are now 2-1 as they head into the bye week this week. So unfortunately, no games this week for the SoCal Warriors, but they will be locked and loaded for next Saturday as they'll return home to Fallbrook to take on their next opponent. As of right now, the Southern California Warriors are 2-1 in the PCFC conference as they're behind the Las Vegas Saints, who they lost to a week ago, and the Riverside Disciples, who are both 2-0 and sit atop of the standings. Down below the SoCal Warriors are the Inland Empire Kings, who are 1-1, the Moreno Valley Mercury at 0-2, and the Desert Scorpions, who are 0-3. And I feel bad for the Scorpions because they've been kind of injury-riddled, but I digress. For the Southern California Warriors, the world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow the SoCal Warriors on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, and you can follow them on Instagram at Southern California _Warriors. And they're also on Facebook by typing in the word Southern California Warriors as well. So thank you to the SoCal Warriors for being sponsor number 1 of IE Sports Radio. Sponsor number 2 consists of Background Check International Businesses. Are you looking for a background check of a new hire? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or other illegal activity. They don't have Twitter or Instagram, but you can follow them on Facebook, Background Check International-BCI, and then they have their own website, www.bcint.com. So thank you to Background Check International Businesses and the SoCal Warriors for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. And you can follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter and on Instagram at IE Sports Radio. You can also follow them on Facebook by typing in the words IE, then the word sports, then the word radio. And definitely check out the website, www.iesportsradio.com, where you can purchase some merchandise there, such as tank tops, t-shirts, sweaters, caps. The list goes on and on. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get on into the Southern California sports action. So, I'm not going to make this too long just because I do have work in a little bit. Well, not in a little bit. I have it at 7, but I gotta make preparations to get out of here and get on over to Lake Forest. Yes, I'm going over to Lake Forest to cover high school football. Go figure. I digress, though. So let's start with some Dodgers action. So we'll start with the MLB as a whole. So for the Dodgers, they have been on a hot streak. They just swept the Atlanta Braves, and they're tied for first place in the NL West, which is absolutely amazing. It's high time the Dodgers have finally gotten back up to the promised land. That is first place in their division. And honestly, it's great to see. And it's a good thing that they're in first place. Now, my thing for the Dodgers is they face the Giants. Now, the Giants have kind of been on a slump. They just won yesterday against the Milwaukee Brewers, but they lost 3 out of 4. And I actually didn't know that the Giants were playing yesterday until I saw their little score in the middle of the afternoon. I'm like, oh, the Giants played. I thought the Giants had a 3-game series, but it turns out they actually had a 4-game series. So currently, the Dodgers and the Giants are tied for first place in the NL West, as the Dodgers and Giants will be facing each other in San Francisco starting tonight at 6:45 p.m. David Price will be on the mound for the Dodgers, while Anthony DeSclafani is on the mound for the Giants. It's going to be fascinating to see David Price. He hasn't been the greatest, but he hasn't been the worst, as he's 4-2 on the season. But the Dodgers need to keep up their hot play, because this is a huge game. This could determine which team finishes first and which team finishes second in the NL West. I know there's still quite a bit of games remaining for the Dodgers and the Giants, but this would be huge going forward if the Dodgers were to win. And then on Saturday, the Dodgers and Giants faced each other at 6:05 p.m. Julio Urias is on the mound for the Dodgers, as he's 15-3 on the season, while the Giants have not decided on who's going to be pitching on Saturday, which I won't knock, but it is what it is. But Urias would be great, is a great to have on the mound, and I think he can do some damage. And Sunday, the Dodgers will have Walker Buehler, who has actually been a thorn in the side of the Giants. I think every game the Dodgers and Giants have faced one another in, when Walker Buehler has pitched, he's just been wheeling and dealing, and he's really cut the Giants down in size, which is good. The Dodgers need that consistent pitcher against a certain team, especially if the two teams do meet in the World Series. So the Giants are also undecided on who's going to be pitching, but the Dodgers have decided to go with Walker Buehler, who, once again, has been a great asset when facing the Giants this year. So that is pretty much that series, and that final game is at 4 p.m., and it's going to be on ESPN. So I understand why it's going to be televised nationally. Just because it's a battle for first place, and it's the battle of the two best teams in the MLB. So for the Dodgers, after their series against the Giants, they'll hit the road to Missouri to take on the St. Louis Cardinals in a 4-game series, which begins on Monday and will go through till Thursday. Then next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Dodgers will head back to the Chavez Ravine to take on the Padres. Now, the Padres are kind of in an interesting scenario, and this is actually kind of a good segue to go into the Padres. The Padres are actually a half game behind the Cincinnati Reds for that final wild card spot. Meanwhile, the Dodgers/Giants, since they both share the same record, are basically occupying the top spot. And I don't think they're going to lose. Either of those teams are going to lose that spot. They would have to go on a major collapse in order to lose that top wild card spot. So there's that. But for the Padres, they're kind of in a precarious situation. This weekend, they take on the Houston Astros, which that's going to be a tough one as it seems and as it stands alone. Because the Astros, while they do have a strong grip on the AL West, they can't get too complacent just because Oklahoma is still on their coattails. And Oklahoma could be fighting for a wild card spot in the American League. If not, they'll be fighting for the AL West title. So for the Padres, they're doing all that they can to try to stay afloat in the NL wild card. Also got to watch out for the Phillies and the Cardinals, who are still both in the wild card spot running. I imagine that the Padres are going to... I know they're dinged up, obviously, but they need to come up big. In the Padres' last few games, they took 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks, and then they split their series against the Angels. Now, the Angels-Padres series was so weird. It was on a Friday and a Saturday, and it wasn't a 3-game series. I've never in my life seen that when it comes to baseball, where you have a weekend series which only lasts 2 games, which I don't know, but it is what it is. So last week the Dodgers swept the Padres, and then the Padres kind of figured out the end of their little losing streak as they beat the Angels 5-0 last Friday, and then the Angels kind of got back at them and beat them 10-2, which is kind of surprising. With the amount of talent that the Padres have, I would think they would have stomped on the Angels, but it is what it is. At least they were able to beat the Diamondbacks, but still. So yesterday the Padres did have the day off, but like I said, they faced the Astros at Petco Park this weekend, and then the Padres will stay at Petco Park on Tuesday and Wednesday to take on the Angels, and then, like I said, next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they will head down the 405 to take on the Dodgers, which, again, that could be a crucial series right there, but for now, the Padres have to focus on getting wins against the Astros and Angels. The Angels shouldn't be that tough, disappointingly, considering even though the Angels have won a few games, they're still nowhere near playoff spot contention. And then obviously the Astros, they're going to be a very tough matchup. The Astros kind of need to build up on their lead. They're like I said, they're not in like any danger of losing their AL West lead, but honestly, I think the Astros could receive one last push from the Oakland A's, which if the Oakland A's do win the AL West, I'd be surprised, but not ultimately. I mean, I thought the Oakland A's were going to take a little bit of a step back this year, but instead they managed to turn the tide the other way, which is good for Oakland. So this could also be Oakland's last year in Oakland, as the A's, I've heard rumblings that the Oakland A's could move. So we'll see. Speaking of the Angels surprisingly, and yes, I say the word surprisingly, are coming off of a series win over the Yankees. And I said on the last episode that the Angels were going to get demolished by the Yankees because, well, the Yankees were starting to play better baseball, but the Angels managed to take 2 out of 3 against them, as The Angels won the first matchup 8-7, and then they won the second matchup 6-4, but lost the final matchup 4-1. So the Angels will stay at Angel Stadium to take on the Texas Rangers in a 3-game series, which actually stretches all the way till Monday. So I have seen that happen before. It's not like the 2-game series over the weekend, but it is what it is. So for the Angels, they're 66-68, but once again, they're not anywhere near playoff contention. In terms of the wild card, they're 10 games back of the final wild card spot, and the Red Sox are starting to pick up steam, and you still have the Oakland A's still looking good, and the Seattle Mariners are trying to make one last push. Then you also have Toronto and Cleveland, which are still in contention. I think Toronto has a better chance of making the postseason than Cleveland does. No offense to all the Indians fans, or soon to be known as Guardians fans, so we'll see for those teams. But the Angels, and they're also not even near the AL West standings. Like, the Angels are still in 4th place, and they're facing the last place Rangers. Like, the only way the Angels get a postseason berth is if everyone stops playing baseball, and then the Angels start playing really good, and they start winning game after game after game after game, which after this series against the Rangers, I already said the Angels are going to head down to Petco Park to take on the Padres. Then after their series against the Padres, it gets really tougher for the Angels. Like, after their series against the Rangers, it gets really tough. Like I said, they have the Padres. Then, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'll head down to the Lone Star State to take on the Houston Astros. I'm sorry. I gotta keep referencing that. I mean, I don't hate the Astros with any ill will, but I have to, mention the asterisks, not the Astros. Anyway, so the Angels take on the Astros next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And like I said, it still gets tougher for the Angels because the following Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the Angels have the White Sox, and they're at Chicago, so it's more traveling for the Angels, even though when they play the Padres, they won't have to go too far. And then after the White Sox, they have a 3-game series against the Athletics, then a 4-game series against the Astros, then a 3-game series against the Mariners. So, and then they follow up with a short 3-game series against the Rangers, and then they finish up with the Mariners. So, after this, like I said, after this series against the Rangers, the Angels are going to have a murderer's row of opponents. All their opponents outside of the Rangers have a winning record. So if the Angels want to somehow finish on a high note, they're going to need to start playing. And I have heard rumblings that Mike Trout is going to be out for the year and he won't be back playing, which is kind of sucky just because I really wanted to see Mike Trout continue to do his thing. But unfortunately, he got hurt, and he's still out, and it looks like he's going to be out for the season, which is unfortunate, because I want to see Mike Trout actually win a World Series, or at least win a playoff game. Like, the fact that the Angels still have not gotten Mike Trout a playoff win to this day is so surprising, and it's disappointing. I really think that the Angels are so much better, but unfortunately, they just haven't been able to get that pitching staff together. So, as an Angels fan, it really bums me out having to talk about the Angels like this. Like, they're so much better than their record indicates, and I think everyone can vouch that Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani deserve better. Speaking of Shohei Ohtani, it's looking like Shohei is getting closer and closer to that MVP award as he just surpassed 40 home runs. He's currently at 42, if I'm not mistaken, but and speaking of Shohei Ohtani, he's actually pitching tonight, which is kind of funny. He's 8-1, surprisingly. That's pretty cool. And yes, Shohei Ohtani is at 42 home runs, so I can't imagine we'd see Shohei as MVP. I mean, obviously, with the team he's on, MVP is kind of out of the ballpark, no pun intended. But it's still a possibility, and that could probably be the Angels' glimmer of this season. Everything else has been quite the wash for the Angels this year. There's no way around it. Like, when it comes to the three Southern California teams, Angels are pretty much little brother. Obviously, the Padres don't have a World Series, but the Padres are stacking their talent, with the exception of possibly missing the playoffs. But for the Padres, they just got to get to the postseason, and then anything can happen if they just so happen to face the Dodgers in the first round. Well, Dodgers or Giants, because you never would know what could happen with the Giants and the Dodgers. So, we'll see. But all in all, for the Angels, it's just another disappointing year, whereas the Dodgers are most likely going to make the postseason unless a collapse occurs, and then the Padres are also going to... Well, the Padres are 50-50, but still. It's just, Angels are still a little brother when it comes to the Southern California baseball teams. But I digress. But that's going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. Let's jump quickly to the NBA. So nothing hasn't really happened when it comes to the Lakers and the Clippers. But for the Lakers, they just recently signed Rajon Rondo to another one-year deal. So for those that remember a couple seasons ago, Rondo helped the Lakers win an NBA championship in the bubble. And yes, I still think that is a championship and not a asterisk championship or a Mickey Mouse championship. I don't care what anyone says. That championship is still legit. And I'm going to still say this to this day. So anyway, Rajon Rondo comes back to the Lakers after he had a season with the Atlanta Hawks and the Los Angeles Clippers. So for Rondo, I think it's great that he's back with the Lakers. I know everyone's saying that the Lakers are an AARP team, but honestly, I don't see what's happening. I don't understand why the hate on the Lakers. I think they're assembling quite the nice team. Obviously, we'll see if Westbrook and LeBron can mesh well together, but I think the Lakers are going to be solid. And then I've obviously seen other players like sign with like the Brooklyn Nets and maybe the Warriors, but still, I think the Lakers are still going to be amongst the top teams in the NBA. And I think as long as they stay healthy, they're probably going to be a legit contender for the NBA championship. So, we'll see what happens. But the West is getting tougher by the day as you have the Warriors, the Clippers, the Mavericks should be up there as well. The Suns are definitely going to be up there. I imagine maybe I was going to say the Grizzlies, but not really. But you know what I mean. The Trailblazers are also going to be up there, but you get what I'm trying to say. The West is getting tougher by the day, and I just hope the Lakers have what it takes to get back on top of that championship. And it looks like I got a paper cut. Oops. That's not important. But anyway, that's my little spiel on the Lakers/Clippers news. We haven't heard much from the Clippers, but for the Lakers, they have re-signed Rajon Rondo, and he is back with Frank Vogel and LeBron and company. And I'm happy. And it was actually a buyout for the Grizzlies. Or actually, no. Rondo went to the Grizzlies, and then he eventually was released via buyout as the Lakers were able to sign him to a one-year deal. So I think there's no pressure when it comes to Rondo. I think Rondo is kind of approaching the swan song of his career as he most likely wants to go out with a bang. And the funny thing about Rondo is that when he was on the Lakers previously, he was one of the older players on the team. But now with all the Lakers signing all these players, he's no longer the oldest, which he said in his press conference, his welcoming press conference, or re-welcoming press conference, if you ask me. So, all in all, I think it's a good signing. Rondo has that fiery competitiveness, and I think he's like the only player to have won an NBA championship with the Lakers and the Clippers. I think he's like one of two players, if I'm not mistaken. And then for Rondo, he has that veteran mentality. He has that toughness. Like, I still remember one time when he got into a little scuffle with Chris Paul of the Rockets, and he did not back down. And that's what I like about him, that he's not afraid to go at anybody. And he doesn't need to contribute on the stat sheet to help his team do great things. Like, when he was on the Lakers when they won the championship, he did not put up the biggest numbers, but he helped contribute, whether it was with assists, whether it was with rebounds, whether it was on defense. And sometimes Rondo would have that scoring output, but he wasn't like the Rondo back when he was with the Boston Celtics. So for Rondo, I think he's a great addition to a Lakers team who has quite a good number of veterans, and I think this is a win-now team for the Lakers, as they're not preparing for the future. Otherwise, they'd be stocking up on draft picks. So we'll see what happens with the Lakers going forward. They do have some young pieces, but most of their players are going to be veterans. I want to say the Lakers may be the oldest team in the NBA, but I'd have to double-check that, and I don't feel like it, so there's that. So that's pretty much it for the NBA portion of the show. Let's jump to some NFL action. So the LA Chargers and the LA Rams completed their preseason. The Chargers lost to the Seattle Seahawks last Saturday, as they lost by a big margin of 27-0. I think it was 27-0. If not, it was 28-0. So yeah, it was 27-0. So I don't really care. Like, I don't even care if the Chargers lost 27-0 or 28-0. Honestly, everyone needs to realize it's just preseason. I do not care. I do not care for preseason scores. Like, everyone makes... It's so mind-blowing to see everyone making a huge deal about their team being 3-0 in preseason. It's like, why? Preseason, it's just preseason, my guys and girls. Like, if your team's 0-3, it's no big deal. If your team is 3-0, it's no big deal. It's just preseason. All that matters in the preseason is player development and then player health. For the Chargers, they're doing a good job of both of those things. They did cut down their 53-man roster, and I retweeted it through the SoCal Supreme Sports Show Twitter account, which is cool and all. However, there was one cut that I did not like, and that was the cutting of Teran Johnson. Now, I did hear that Johnson had struggles in the preseason, that he struggled with drops and penalties, and I understand things like that happen, but I like Teran Johnson. I really think Teran Johnson was a great addition for the Chargers, and he helped the receiver core, and he also helped Justin Herbert whenever he threw the ball to him. Whenever other teams' players were guarding Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So it really is heartbreaking to see Teran Johnson go, and he eventually got picked up by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So great job, Chargers. But the Chargers still have a good little receiving core. This also leads me to my next question. Are the Chargers going to keep Mike Williams? I think they are. Now, it all depends on what Mike Williams wants to do, but I hope they do keep Mike Williams, just because he does do a great job when it comes to catching the deep ball, and he just makes these ridiculous 50-50 catches, which is absolutely amazing. So for the Chargers, I imagine they will keep Mike Williams. If not, they'll have to do good things with Jalen Guyton and Joshua Palmer, which that was their first round pick, or not first round pick, their third round pick, their first third round pick. So all in all, for the Chargers, I am disappointed about the Teran Johnson cutting, but it's all good. Like, the NFL is a business, and unfortunately, if you don't do your job correctly, you're going to be out of a job, which is disappointing. And I wish Teran Johnson the best, but I think the Chargers they kind of dropped the ball when it came to this. But it's all good in the hood. So we'll see how it goes for the Chargers and whatnot. They've also named their team captains, as their captains are Keenan Allen, Joey Bosa, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, Derwin James, Linval Joseph, Corey Linsley, and Ty Long. So those are your 8 captains for the Los Angeles Chargers. So all in all for the Chargers, I am not overly disappointed, but I just wish that the Tyron Johnson thing could have gone a little bit better for them. But it is what it is. Like, maybe this will be a blessing in disguise. So we'll see what happens going forward. So all in all, I'm not too heartbroken by this, but it is going to take a little get used to not seeing T-Billy, which I love that nickname, T-Billy. It's like, why is his nickname T-Billy? I guess I'll never know, but we'll see what happens. But that is going to do it for the Chargers talk. Let's go to the Rams, as they just wrapped up their preseason with a 17-12 loss to the Denver Broncos. As we say hello to Andrew Hagenbaugh. Thank you for tuning in, my brother. He says, hope you're having a great show. I appreciate you, and I hope all is well with you. Thank you once again for tuning in. So, for the LA Rams, like I said, they lost to the Denver Broncos 17-12. But again, it is no big deal about preseason. Like, if I have to see one more person boasting on how their team is 3-0, I swear I'm going to lose it. I'm going to call them out on it, whether it's through the SoCal Supreme Sports Show account or my own Twitter account. But I digress. All right. As for the Rams, they made their 53 roster finalization, and there was no surprises when it came to the Rams. Like, for the Rams, they are looking really good. Like, and obviously with the Sony Michel trade, I think this is the prime example of a team doing well despite not having draft picks, which is quite nice. Like, I think they are the prime example of a team that can utilize a great organization without draft picks. And also, a happy late birthday to Eric Dickerson. Fun fact about Eric, I actually met him at I think it was a wine gala or a wine tasting thing. It was like to support the LA Rams and whatnot. And I think it was held in Corona del Mar or somewhere along those lines. I don't know. Either way, I did meet Eric Dickerson, and he was a great guy. I liked it. So all in all, it was fun meeting him, and I also got to meet Vince Ferragamo, and he has his own wine as well. So speaking of wine, definitely do check out Let's Wine About Sports every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. By the way, that show is now an official DMV show. And fun fact, DMV means Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. It's not Department Motor Vehicles. It's Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. So that's what DMV means when it comes to like states and sports and whatnot. So anyway, as for the captains for the Los Angeles Rams, they consist of Johnny Hecker, Jordan Fuller, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, Andrew Whitworth, Robert Woods, Jalen Ramsey, and Aaron Donald. So those are your 8 captains for the Los Angeles Rams, as the Rams kick off their season not this Sunday, but next Sunday against the Chicago Bears, and they will have the honor of playing in SoFi Stadium with fans for the fans in a game, in a regular season game. There were fans at the SoFi, or at the Rams and Chargers preseason games and whatnot. So for the Rams, I think their matchup against the Bears could be 50-50. I think the Rams can win that one, but I'll fully preview them and the Chargers matchup with Washington once next week hits. Which, for next week, I don't know when I'm going to be on. But we'll have to see. Anyway, as for the Rams, they finished preseason 0-3, but again, it's no big deal. The Chargers finished preseason 1-2, and that's no big deal. All that matters is the real deal, and that is the regular season. So we'll see what happens with both the Rams and the Chargers. I think both teams are primed for a great season, but anything can happen. Like, both teams are quite unpredictable. Like, the Chargers can either be a really good team or a team that's not quite there yet, but they're getting close. I think this year they take the next step. And as for the Rams, they're obviously a wild card. Sometimes they'll be the dominant team in the NFC, and then sometimes they'll be close but no cigar in the NFC. So, all in all, for the Rams and Chargers, it's going to be a fun season, and I can't wait. So, that's going to do it for the NFL portion of the show. Let's jump to some college football, and then we'll take ourselves a little breaky break, and then we'll get on to the second half of this show. So for UCLA, they open up. Well, like I said last week, they opened up their season with a 44-10 victory over Hawaii, and that's no big deal if you ask me. I mean, it's cool that they beat Hawaii, but Hawaii isn't as good as they were in couple of years ago, so I digress. So UCLA will stay at home in the Rose Bowl to take on LSU at 5:30. LSU is only a 2.5 favorite, and I kind of discussed this with Larry B on 3 and Out College Edition, which you can catch every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. So for LSU and UCLA, I think it's going to be quite the battle. I don't think UCLA will win, honestly, but I think it'll be close. I think LSU's defense is going to be quite challenging and tricky. Like, I think UCLA has the horses, but against a team like LSU, I don't think they're quite there yet. If I had to guess, I'd probably say LSU defeats UCLA, let's say 27-24. That's my prediction. If I'm wrong, then I'll eat crow. And I promise you I'll eat quite a bit of crow. So, for UCLA, that's my little prediction. They obviously had a big week last week, but it was against Hawaii. We're not too thrilled about that. And I'm not trying to say that to hate on UCLA. I'm just saying that just because UCLA they're starting to get back up there in terms of the good program when it comes to the Pac-12. Like, this past week was their first non-conference win under the Chip Kelly era. It's kind of surprising, but it's quite impressive. And another reason why I think LSU is only a 2.5 point favorite is because LSU has not had a match this season. Not yet, as this will be their first match, while UCLA will also UCLA will have its second match. So there's that right there for UCLA versus LSU, but I think UCLA takes a close loss, but for the Bruins, I think they're on the right track. Now we jump over to the other side of town, as we'll have number 15 USC taking on San Jose State, who is 1-0. So for USC, they kick off their season. This is their first game of the year, as they are 14-point favorites ahead of San Jose State. For San Jose State, they actually played a match already, as they demolished their opponent. They beat Southern Utah 45-14. So for USC, this is their first match of the season. I honestly think that USC might have a tough time closing this one out. I think San Jose State isn't as good as they were last year, but I think USC they're still up there in talent, but I think it could take them a while to get it together, especially with how many times they played a lot of close games last year. So for USC, I think they'll defeat San Jose State, but it's going to be close. I think there's a reason why USC is only a 14-point favorite. So, and I'm surprised that number isn't a lot less high. I think they should be like a 10-point favorite. For me, I think USC will win. Let's go with 31-20. That's my prediction. 31-20. I think San Jose State cover. But my bottom line is, if there's any game you want to pick for covering, this is the game. You should definitely pick this game because I think San Jose State covers. Whereas USC kind of struggles when it comes to... I mean, they've won their past 7 season openers, but I think they're going to struggle out the gate a little. Kean Slovis says he's felt as best as he has felt, and for him, I think that's going to be the key in order to... For him and the offensive line, I think that's going to be the key to possibly defeating San Jose State. I hope USC can have a big season. I think this is I really want to see them win the Pac-12. Like, if this anything that has them not making the Pac-12 championship should result in Clay Helton being fired, because Helton has gotten 1,000 chances and he continues to underachieve, which is disappointing. And then, obviously, last season wasn't entirely his fault. I think it didn't help that the Pac-12 had its head up its rears, but it also did not help that USC had to play a different opponent that wasn't Washington. So, and then also it doesn't help that Oregon has been USC's daddy for the past few seasons. So for me, I think this is kind of a boom or bust season for USC. I think they'll definitely get to the Pac-12 championship. I don't think they'll make the college football playoff, but I think they should maybe make one last push for a big bowl. Maybe even a Rose Bowl bid. We'll see. And then we also have San Diego State taking on New Mexico State. I feel bad for New Mexico State as they're coming off of a loss from last week. They lost to UTEP 30-3, which that's gotta hurt for New Mexico State. And then as for San Diego State, they kick off their season. I really do feel bad for New Mexico State because their offense looked so non-existent in their home opener. There's a reason why San Diego State is a 31.5 point favorite over New Mexico State. I think San Diego State is going to roll to this victory. The only thing that would surprise me is if the Aztecs do not cover. So we'll see what happens. Like, if you're looking to pick the over, I think that is your matchup to do so. If you're planning on betting on sports. iSports Radio does not condone betting, by the way. Alright, so that's it for college football, right? Wrong. There's actually 2 more teams when it comes to college football in Southern California, and that is San Diego and Cal Poly. Those 2 are in the FCS, but I gotta give them the love too. So, believe it or not, Cal Poly and San Diego face one another at 1 p.m., and it's going to be held in beautiful San Diego. As San Diego last season lost 4 of their last 5 matches, that was Cal Poly. San Diego won 3 of their last 5 matches. Cal Poly, on the other hand, lost 4 of their last 5 matches last season, in the condensed season. And this will be taking place at the University of San Diego, aka Torero Stadium. For me, I mean, this can go either way. There is no bet line with San Diego and Cal Poly. It's tough for me to predict this one just because I need to start following FCS more, but I'm going to take San Diego with the win. I think it might be close, though. I think San Diego and Cal Poly will grind it out, but these 2 are FCS rivals, not only because they are in the same state, but I also think that this team is... I think these 2 teams have met one another in the postseason. I think it was like a year or so ago where San Diego made the postseason and then Cal Poly made the postseason and then San Diego beat Cal Poly. That, or it was a conference game or something like that. So either way, San Diego, I think they'll win. What's a good score for them? I think they'll win 28-24. I think San Diego is able to inch it out, but we'll see what happens with Cal Poly and San Diego. I gotta give them the love too, just because they are college football. So that's gonna do it for the college football portion of the show. We'll actually take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we'll have a little MLS talk, and then we gotta get into the Dum Dum of the Week award. So you are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college in the CCCAA and in the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS. Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention!
And we are back with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. You can check out all of our amazing shows on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Apple/Google Podcasts. The list goes on. And you can check out this show on said platforms along with YouTube and JioSaavn and many other streaming platforms that are available. We're still waiting on iHeartRadio, but Rome wasn't built in a day. So, anyway, let's jump into segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Going to try to end as early as possible just because I am busy and I got to get to work soon. But for LAFC, they begin a huge journey of a long stretch of September. As tonight they open up a big home game against Sporting KC. Now, Sporting KC is clearly ahead of they're not ahead of everybody, but they are amongst some of the top teams in the Western Conference. A win for LAFC would be huge because not only would that help them, it would help their brothers, the LA Galaxy. And speaking of LAFC and LA Galaxy, both teams tied 3-3 in El Tráfico. So, back to LAFC, this begins quite a busy time for them, because after their match against Sporting KC, they'll have quite a bit of somewhat tough matches. Sporting KC is the toughest one, which is the good thing, because on Sunday, September 12th, LAFC will stay at home to take on Real Salt Lake. Their only not so tough matchup is Austin FC, which is the expansion team in the MLS. And then they also have Portland, San Jose, and Portland again to close out the month of September. Keep in mind, LAFC has not won a game since July. Their last win came in a 2-1 victory over Real Salt Lake. I wouldn't be shocked if LAFC defeated Salt Lake. It would be quite fitting if LAFC defeated Real Salt Lake, because that was their last win before they went on this winless streak. So, as a result of this winless streak for LAFC, they are currently 11th in the Western Conference. That is a huge drop, and that might be that's really concerning if you're LAFC. Tonight is really going to be a tough one. I really don't see LAFC winning tonight. If they actually win, then I will eat crow next week. And next Sunday, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, LAFC embarks on quite the long stretch. I wouldn't call it the long stretch because they have a game Sunday, then Wednesday, then the following Sunday. So that's quite a bit of games and preparations and few practices and less recovery time they have. But honestly, I think LAFC should at least get one win when it comes to that 3-game stretch between Salt Lake, Austin, and Portland. If they don't, then I don't see how this team makes the postseason. Like, this team has been underachieving like Mad Hatter. I didn't think they'd be on a possibly 2-month winless streak. Like, they have to get a win before the 19th, because if it gets to the 19th, then LAFC will not have won a match since, like I said, 2 months ago. And the fact that it's almost being to that stretch is quite significant for LAFC. And if they want to make the postseason, they got to start winning more matches, because it's only getting tougher going forward, because San Jose is in the playoff mix, then Vancouver has suddenly risen to the playoff mix, Real Salt Lake is currently in the top 7, Portland is in the top 7, so I imagine those matchups are going to be tough. So, like, Portland is in the top 7. Portland's in the top 7, San Jose is 9th, but they're still knocking on the door when it comes to making the top 7. And then you look at their schedule next month, you have the Galaxy, which that's going to be nationally televised. Then you also have San Jose, which is also in the playoff mix. Then Dallas is in the playoff mix. Minnesota, which is in the top 7. And then you also have Seattle, which they're the top dog of the Western Conference. I also want to say that Seattle's still the top dog in all of the MLB. And then they close out the season against Vancouver and Colorado. 2 teams that are both really tough and that are... Well, Vancouver is in the playoff mix, while Colorado is currently 3rd. And Colorado needs all the wins they can afford, considering if they want to finish in the top 3, they're going to need to close out their games. And once again, beating the Galaxy a while back ago has really benefited them. And it's really put the Galaxy on their heels. Speaking of the Galaxy, they are off this week. So their next game isn't until next Saturday when they'll head up to the Rocky Mountains to take on Colorado. Huge match right there. The Galaxy need to beat Colorado. If they don't beat Colorado, then this team will not finish in the top 3. They'll make the playoffs. I see the Galaxy making the playoffs. But they got to beat Colorado. I can't stress that enough. And just like LAFC, the Galaxy have a little bit of a stretch where they will be playing 3 games in the span of 8 days, as Wednesday the 15th of September, they'll head back home to take on Houston, and then on Saturday, September 18th, hey, my brother's birthday. We'll have to give him a shout-out. But the Galaxy will be taking on Minnesota on Saturday, September 18th against Minnesota. That is another crucial matchup right there, because that is a playoff team. And then the Galaxy get the honor of taking on Austin FC on the 26th, and then they close out the month of September against Real Salt Lake, which Real Salt Lake, like I said, they're in the playoff mix, but I don't think the Galaxy are too afraid of them. And looking at the Galaxy next month, they have El Tráfico to start October, which that's also going to be a televised game, nationally televised game. I also got to wonder why the Galaxy versus Austin FC is nationally televised, because Austin isn't, no offense to Austin FC, and God bless them for being an expansion team, but they're not really that high when it comes to the Western Conference standings. Like, why did Galaxy versus Austin have to be nationally televised? I don't know. Maybe it's just food for thought on my part, but I digress. I ain't complaining, because I should be happy for the Galaxy that they're getting a nationally televised game, so I'm going to shut up about that. Anyway, looking at the Galaxy's remaining October schedule, they have LAFC, then they are at home against Portland, then they're heading down to H-Town to take on Houston, then they have Dallas in California, and then they'll head up to Missouri to take on Kansas City, and then they close off the season in November against Seattle and Minnesota. 2 playoff teams, might I add. If they could beat Seattle, that would be fun. Like, the last time the Galaxy played Seattle, they almost beat them, but they lost 2-1, and I was so sad. Because the Galaxy had control of that, but unfortunately for Seattle, they gave the Galaxy the edge, and eventually Seattle pushed them off the edge. So, sad, but true. But I think the Galaxy are still having a fantastic season. Compared to last year, the Galaxy are just still doing great guns. Like I said, and I don't mean to bash LAFC, but at least the Galaxy aren't LAFC. Like, LAFC, like I said, has not won a match in almost 2 months. 2. But that could change for LAFC if they somehow face Real Salt Lake. Like, it's for sure not going to happen it's not going to happen tonight when they play Sporting KC, that's for sure. So, we'll have to see what happens with the Galaxy and LAFC. Like, I really think the Galaxy can finish number 3 in the West. If so, then that would be ideal, because they wouldn't have to face Seattle until the Western Conference Finals. And I think that seems to be everyone's goal, to avoid facing Seattle until the conference finals, which Seattle is, I hate to say this, but I think Seattle's one of the more complete teams. They have such a well-balanced attack, and they don't beat themselves. Like, if they lose a match, then it's obviously because they either had an off night, or they decided, or they got lulled into a false sense of security. Obviously, they've had a few losses here and there, but I don't think they're in any danger whatsoever. They did lose last Sunday against Portland, but that's the Cascadia Cup. Like, anything can happen in that rivalry. Kind of like El Tráfico. So, there's that. And then obviously the losses to San Jose, Kansas City, and Minnesota were kind of as well. But Kansas City is good as advertised. Minnesota is a lot better than most people give them credit for. And San Jose is starting to get into that playoff mix. So you never know. But that's going to do it for the MLS portion of this show. So that's pretty much all I've got when it comes to like covering SoCal sports. Like I said, I'm going to try to end this off a little quicker, but we can't end this off without having the Dum Dum of the Week award. Now, the Dum Dum of the Week award goes to people who do dumb things in this world. Whether it's my neighbor that does something dumb, a public sports figure that does something dumb, or anyone that does something dumb, that person or that organization could be at risk for being the Dum Dum of the Week award. The Dum Dum of the Week, and no one is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week. So, this week's Dum Dum of the Week recipient award, and my apologies if you heard that. So, this week's Dum Dum of the Week award goes out to a certain organization. Now, this occurred yesterday, and honestly, I couldn't believe what happened with this. So, for the Dum Dum of the Week award, I saw on Twitter something quite mind-blowing. And this goes to, and this organization actually goes out to, was one by the name of USC, University of Southern California. So, for USC, everyone remembers or USC men's basketball. So, everyone here remembers their amazing run to the NCAA championship. They made it all the way to the Elite Eight, which was awesome. Unfortunately, they succumbed to the juggernaut. That was Gonzaga, which they lost by a lot. We're not going to get into that loss. No. We're not unopening that wound. But for USC, they had a phenomenal run last year, and I like it. But what I saw yesterday was probably the most asinine thing I've ever seen. I don't know if I could say asinine, but still. USC men's hoops, I don't know who thought of this idea. I don't know if it was Andy Enfield. I don't know if it was Mike Bond. I don't know if it was Carol Holt. I don't know who thought of this idea, but yesterday I saw that USC's men's basketball team got Elite Eight championship rings. Elite Eight rings! Why are we giving rings to teams that made the Elite Eight? Elite Eight rings are for champions! You can't be... I couldn't believe this! I saw this whole thing and I was like, oh my gosh, Elite Eight rings? Rings are for champions! You can't be doing that! Oh my, I couldn't believe it. It's like, you can't give a ring to a team that made the Elite Eight. It doesn't work like that. I understand USC was thinking of the kids and thinking historically, but why? It's basically the equivalent of a participation trophy. I know it takes a certain amount of elite to make the Elite Eight, but the Elite Eight rings? I couldn't believe this. I had to get the input of Davidson Crooks and Dentarius Locke on Twitter. I only got the input from Dentarius, and he said, I guess, which, I guess Elite Eight rings are cool, but rings are for champions. Let's get one thing straight. Like, if they had put that on, like, a patch on their jacket, or a Letterman patch elsewhere, I would have understood it. But rings just for making the Elite Eight, I don't understand. I could not believe this. It was almost too bad to be true. And I'm like, oh dear God, help me. And even some of my friends were bashing USC for having Elite Eight championship rings. It's basically the equivalent of a Mickey Mouse trophy. I really, really could not believe that. I felt sick after looking at that. Like, I had to basically click away from that tweet and just scroll up just to cleanse myself from not seeing that. But USC men's hoops, or whoever at USC thought it was a good idea to give them Elite 8 rings, just for making the Elite 8. Not for winning the championship, but for making the Elite 8. Like, if it were Pac-12 championship rings, I could understand that. But Elite 8? I don't get it. I really, really don't understand. But whoever in the USC organization, whether it was in the men's basketball program or anyone in the USC athletics program, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week for getting Elite 8 rings for the USC men's basketball team.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I still can't believe it. Elite 8 championship rings. That's basically a Mickey Mouse trophy. But it gets better. That we've got not one, but two Dum Dum of the Week awards. Now, everyone's probably thinking it's going to be Bishop Sycamore. No. Bishop Sycamore is not even worthy of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show time. No, we're not even going to discuss Bishop Sycamore just because they're not even close to Southern California, and I don't even want to get into that. Like, it's not worth it. But the second Dum Dum of the Week award goes out to another university, and that made a big mistake. So, for those of you that know volleyball like I do, everyone knows the great Mick Haley from USC's women's volleyball team. He helped the Trojans win a NCAA championship, and he was a great coach. And he also coached at the University of Texas. So, absolutely amazing guy, and he's also the co-host of Six Rotations with Daniel Gilman, which I highly recommend checking out, but I digress. So, Mick Haley, this happened last week, and Mick Haley got an email from the University of Texas because he coached there, and I guess his wife got an email, and his wife, I guess, is a University of Texas alum. But Haley got an email when it came to, like, promotions. They were, like, promoting Texas gear. I think it was from their, like, business organization, or their business aspects of the University of Texas, or business management of the University of Texas. Regardless, Mick Haley's wife received an email, and Mick saw the email of all the gear that was available, and there was nothing for volleyball. So that's not the reason why the University of Texas is this week's Dum Dum of the Week award. But the University of Texas actually had volleyball gear. That's amazing. Hold on. Hold your applause. It gets worse, though. So the University of Texas had volleyball gear available. And everyone knows that the University of Texas had a phenomenal season last year. They only lost 2 matches, one to Rice and the other in the NCAA championship to Kentucky. However, when it came to the volleyball gear from the University of Texas, they had on sale the 2020 National Championship t-shirts for the University of Texas. Are we kidding me right now? Do these Texas people know that Texas did not win the NCAA championship? It was sad. I was like, there's no way. And Mick Haley had a screenshot of it, and he saw that Texas, or whoever created the email, or whoever is running their student store, had the NCAA 2020 championship t-shirts for the University of Texas, when the University of Texas did not win the championship. That was Kentucky. So the fact that someone done messed up with the University of Texas, and they put that email out there, and then they also decided to put on sale NCAA 2020 women's volleyball champions for the University of Texas is big reason enough that they should be this week's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient. I don't get it. I don't understand how these people, how these universities are making mistakes. Like, holy guacamole. It doesn't make sense. Are these people that brain dead? I don't get it, but the University of Texas and its business management or its student store or whoever decided to have Mick Haley see that little display of asinineness, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week recipient award, part 2.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote when it came to the Dum Dum of the Week awards. We had one school giving out Elite 8 rings to players. And then we had another school that decided to print out or produce fake news via clothing. Do better, you two. Do better, Texas and USC. Do better. But on that note, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I appreciate you all tuning in, and without any further delay, let's get on out of here because I gotta get ready for work, and I've got a long trek to get to Lake Forest. You dig? Thank you all very much for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. If you're listening live, I appreciate you. If you're listening via the playback, I appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room, Larry B. and Andrew Hagenbaum for tuning in. It really means a lot. I really appreciate y'all tuning in or popping in for a little bit. If you're listening in the wee hours of the morning, I appreciate you. If you're listening at work, I appreciate you. If you're listening on your own downtime, whenever, wherever, any place at any time, I really do appreciate you. It means a lot for me because without you, I don't know if I can continue this. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. I shall see you all Monday for Set Point, and I'll keep you all posted on when the SoCal Supreme Sports Show will be going live next week. You all have yourselves a great weekend. If you're not vaccinated, please definitely do get vaxxed. If you are going to the beach, even though it's not going to be as hot, definitely wear your sunscreen. And just be a good person. That's all. Be a good person. And I will see you all Monday for Set Point. Have a great weekend. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!